education to strengthen human capital. I'm glad that so many of you joined this talk show and that we have such a diverse expertise present in this room already. In the next hour or so, we will share experiences and views on how to strengthen the agriculture education in Indonesia and what Indonesian and Dutch partners already do and could do even more or differently. My name is Huub Mudde, working at Master School of Management. I will be your host and moderator. First, two practical notices for the participants. Please put your sound on mute and switch off your camera. If you have questions to one of the speakers, please write your question in the chat. Nanya Burki from Nestle Indonesia will monitor the chat and bring the questions to our attention. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Wikan Sakarinto and Jan Kees Goed to open this talk show. Mr. Wikan Sakarinto is Director General of Vocational Education at the Indonesian Ministry of Education and Culture, and Mr. Jan Kees Goed is Vice Minister of the Dutch Ministry of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality. We will now show you their pre-recorded video messages. Nanya, please go ahead.
Indonesia and the Netherlands have been working together to improve green education in Indonesia. For Indonesian government, vocational training and vocational education will remain the priority of the years to come. As we know, the COVID-19 crisis underlines how important food and food security is, and agriculture being among the most potential area of further development for the country, also to promote export. Indonesia and the Netherlands have been working in particular on a pilot project to improve or to revitalize two SMK, or vocational high schools, one in Jember and the other one in Subang. This project, as a matter of fact, will finish next March. There have been already important results and lessons learned from our collaborations, very much indeed. First, the importance of link and match, and sometimes I would say link and super match between the schools and the party sectors. Secondly, the importance of soft skills for the teachers as well as for to the students to deal with. So soft skill is something that taking significant place for these collaborations, because we would like to create graduates not only with strong hard skill but also soft skills, how they can communicate, how they can be the leader, and how they can develop the link and match for the future, for the life. And thirdly, the importance of how the schools are organized and how those should be managed. One recommendation which is already followed up more broadly is that schools are given the status of PLU, or Public Service Delivery Body, which allow them to sell products produced by the students, produced by the schools within the teaching industries, teaching factories within the schools. This creates much more a real-life teaching experience. The challenge we now face is how to bring this new approach to vocational education to a much greater number of schools. We would like to expand, we would like to see more schools, and to schools beyond horticulture or agriculture. So to schools that, for example, focus on the dairy or livestock productions and trade. Only by means of this way, we can cover all green education. I hope that this talk show in Wiener, we can further discuss these questions. We can further dealing with this challenge. To focus on expanding and upskilling to more schools. Where can the knowledge and experience that the Netherlands has in these areas benefits Indonesia? And what do our Dutch partners expect to learn from us? Or where would they like to increase their investment? I myself, as a Holland and student alumni, back to 17 years ago, I studied in Twente University in Enschede. I truly believe that we know each other well enough to have an honest and fruitful discussion about these questions. My hope and my expectations and that Indonesia and the Netherlands will elaborate further their collaborations in the area of green education, supporting food productions and food security, as well as agriculture investment in the years to come, to the mutual benefit of both countries. So I really wish you a fruitful discussions. Thank you very much. Dank u wel. Terima kasih.
Selamat siang. Good morning to you all. In March of this year, I had the pleasure to visit beautiful Indonesia and to get to know your country better, both in terms of agriculture and education. The world has changed dramatically since then. I am now addressing you from my home. Since 2016, Indonesia and the Netherlands have joined efforts to revitalize green vocational education, in particular by strengthening a number of selected SMKs. In the Netherlands, the cooperation between three parties, government, education and the private sector, has proved to be very successful in the green sector. I would like to emphasize the advantages of private sector engagement in education and applied research. It helps our educational institutes to keep up with the latest market trends. This way, institutes can adjust their curriculum to include actual issues and enhance knowledge and skills of teachers and students. In addition, students are better prepared for work after graduation. On the other hand, it gives the private sector access to young, educated and skilled workers who may turn out to be their future employees. By working together, education and the private sector also facilitate innovations in the sector through practical and applied research. These innovations are the key to social challenges like the sustainable production of sufficient, safe and healthy food, a livable environment and a vital nature. We strongly believe that cooperation in the green sector is essential to address these challenges and to achieve the SDGs. Since our government signed the MOU in 2016, a selected number of SMKs have already been strengthened on the basis of partnerships between education institutes and private sector parties in Indonesia and the Netherlands. During my visit to Indonesia, I had the pleasure to meet with representatives of these partnerships and to learn more about approaches and results. It became clear to me how important a strong green vocational education system is for the many small and medium enterprises and small cooperatives in Indonesia. I hope the winner will be a recurring annual event to celebrate and share our partnership. I hope that your discussion today will contribute to a fruitful cooperation between our countries in the area of green vocational education. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bikan and Mr. Goed, for your inspiring words and pertinent questions. So what we were going to do now in this talk show? We've invited 3 experts and each of them will be asked to bring their experience to this table. Subsequently, we will have a dialogue among the panelists and I will ask them to address questions and comments from you, the audience. And because of time, we won't have most likely time to tackle many questions. Green education, the topic of this talk show, is one of the spearheads of the Dutch-Indonesian partnerships, in particular vocational education. There are many opportunities for the agriculture sector in Indonesia, but also challenges. The sector needs upgrading, increased productivity, efficiency, and competitiveness. The sector is huge and diverse, spread among many islands with different climates, cultures, with logistical challenges. This asks for talented people and innovative solutions. Hence, what can education contribute? How can companies, farmers, associations, governments, education and research, whether Indonesian or Dutch, help each other aiming at a dynamic, market-oriented education? What have we achieved already? What are our lessons learned? And what ideas do we have for tomorrow and the days ahead. Our first expert is Mr. Glenn Pardede. Mr. Glenn is Managing Director at PT East West Seeds Indonesia, Ewindo in short. Ewindo is the first integrated vegetable seed company in Indonesia, which produces vegetable seeds through plant breeding for Indonesian farmers and consumers. Mr. Glenn, your professional life and personal life are very much intertwined with the Netherlands. In 1996, you started working for AVB in the potato industry, and as of then, you have continuously worked with the Dutch. Your children are currently studying in the Netherlands. Can you recall that you came for the first time to the Netherlands? Can you recall that?
Yeah, of course.
And what did you perhaps find at that time the most amazing, perhaps strange, that you encountered?
Yeah, thank you for the quite funny question, I think. Yeah, I went there in 1996, so I was still very young, 26-year-old boy at that time. So when I arrived at Schiphol, of course, after that I took a train to Groningen from Schiphol. So at that time there was no mobile phone to make a picture. So if I look back at my collection, so on the way from Schiphol to Groningen by train, I'm making a lot of picture of cows. I'm a civil engineer by education, but I was amazed to see a lot of cows along the way from Schiphol to Groningen, a lot of open area, a lot of agriculture land. So that's what I amazed. So a lot of pictures actually is a cow's picture. That's amazing. Yeah.
You've been working with people from the Netherlands, with companies in the Netherlands, of course, for a long time now. Could you name one thing that you have learned from your cooperation with the Dutch?
Yeah, one thing for sure that the Dutch are very structured. When we design something, we'll take a lot of time to design, and then we will do it as what we design, as what we agreed on. That's really different. Indonesian never, no, I cannot say never, but we don't spend enough time to design something, we just do it. Yeah, a lot of, Indonesian, I think a lot of creativity. Yeah, but the Dutch are very structured.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand that your company has about 1,000 employees. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
What is your experience with new employees that just graduated?
Good, very good question. Yeah, we are 1,000 employees, and if we receive employees actually from university, although they are university graduates, but normally there will be, it takes some time to understand the real job. So there is still a gap between the knowledge that they have at the university and what is required at the job, at the company. So there is still a gap. So that's what I see. At least 1 year to catch up.
So what is Ewindo doing to close this gap?
Yeah, of course, our HR department, we have already materials, trainings for them. But the easiest part actually, even for our production staff, for example, we just put them in the field. We ask them to learn from their seniors. Just follow the seniors and go around the farmers to understand the job. Although graduates from, for example, agriculture university, but they don't have enough hands-on, so they really have to be in the field to learn from their senior.
Okay. Do you have a concrete cooperation in this filling this gap problem, what you are now explaining, with, let's say, education institutions in Indonesia?
Yeah, actually we learn a lot also. There are several activities that we enjoy. For example, what's so-called our FETS Impact Program. This program actually funded by the Dutch government. It's actually a training for our staff to be a trainer. As I mentioned before, in Holland, I think you guys have a very structured program. That program is already packed in a nice way, a nice program designed very well, and then we learn from that. So on that FETS Impact, I think we have trained almost all of our staffs, all of our sales and marketing staffs. And they, after that, have to train farmers. I think on that program, 10,000 farmers. So that's one of the way that we actually teach our employees.
Okay. Thank you very much. We come back to that later.
Yeah.
I would like to now go to our second speaker. An expert is Angelie Benen. Angelie is chairman and partner of Holland Door Cooperative. Holland Door is offering study tours, training programs, and business matchmaking for agricultural professionals worldwide. Currently, Angelie is managing several capacity building programs for educational institutes and private sector in Indonesia and the Middle East, among which, of course, in Indonesia. Angelie, now we are not able to travel to Indonesia. What do you miss the most?
Oh, wow. How long do you have, Huub? What I miss most is really the personal contact with the trainers, with the people itself. At one hand, we are really surprised what we can do online. We never expected that before. But sitting together, looking each other in the eyes, looking to the situation in a country itself has definitely his added value for any program what we do. So yeah, that is what I miss.
Yeah. You're also now working for several years now with many people in Indonesia. So what have you learned from working with Indonesians?
Yeah, what we have learned, and to be honest, I mentioned that already yesterday, and Glenn, maybe that's different of what you were saying. I feel that also the people we are working now, they're unbelievable disciplined, structured. So when we prepare a program, we sometimes say, we Dutchies are a little bit creative and do it spontaneously and see what the situation is and then act. And I feel that what I see now in the programs we do in Indonesia with our counterparts, how unbelievable well prepared they do the work at their side, and how disciplined and how detailed. And that is much more detailed as we act sometimes when we look to a situation and start having the discussion and thinking about it. So yeah, for sure, we can learn from that part, from the Indonesia.
Okay. Angelie, we're talking about green education. I think it's also core to the work that you do. Can you mention one concrete example of what you consider to be a good Dutch-Indonesian cooperation in green education? And then also explain why you find it a good example.
Now, to be honest, almost all examples of all projects we did, I can say I would mention, but let's go back now to the current program we are doing with some master trainers of 3 institutes with VETCA, IPB and University of Malang, where we jointly work towards a script, a blueprint for the revitalization of few SMKs, and the first selected SMKs are in Lombok. And why I think this is a good example, what I notice is that it's really in collaboration. We get real good feedback from the 3 institutes. They know exactly what can be done in Indonesia. they have already a lot of experience in the topics that we are training in, and we can contribute, but it's a real partnership. Jointly we're working on that blueprint. So I think that is how it should be, that it's not from the Netherlands to Indonesia, but it's in collaboration with each other to take the best of both worlds. And that is what I see.
Sorry, can you explain a little bit more about this blueprint? So what does that mean?
Yeah, at this moment we did a needs assessment, again jointly with these three institutes, a needs assessment in Lombok at the 3 SMKs who are involved in this program. Together with the private sector, looking to the needs of the private sector, we developed a training program, and currently we train the master trainers from these 3 institutes, and they train the teachers in Lombok. And all that information is described, and the programs are saved, and we evaluate looking what the impact is of these programs. So at the end, that should end up with a blueprint. How can these 3 institutes revitalize with the knowledge we gained in these 2 years? How can they revitalize also other regions and other SMKs? That is finally it ends with the blueprint.
Thank you. In the meantime, I have the message that our third speaker is not yet with us, so I'll continue to Mr. Glenn. Glenn, I think you already explained in your responding to my first questions that for your company, the involvement of farmers is vital. So I think you were talking about 17,000 farmers. I can recall when we had a preparatory meeting that you were concerned about, let's say, also the aging of farmers. Perhaps can you say something about this? What is your experience from your business perspective, and what you think that also education perhaps could contribute to perhaps change that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. This is a very good question, Harp. Based on the statistics, Indonesian farmers are aging. Now, average age of Indonesian farmers are above 50. So between 50 to 60 years old. So the productivity is less. And the youngsters are not continuing the job of the parents. But at the other side, number of population are increased. Land available for food production is decreased. Farmers are decreasing. So then we have a problem who provide the food for us in the future. So that is a big challenge for us. We are a vegetable seeds company. Yeah? We produce the seeds, and somebody still has to grow the seeds, to provide the food for other, for people. So it is a big concern for the company. So that's why our company has a program actually, even not only at the upstream, but also at the downstream, to create more demand. So people wants to grow more vegetable, and then vegetable price at the end increase. So that also will pull the numbers of future farmers. On the educational side, it is very interesting. That's why we are so enthusiastic to talk in this kind of forum, green vocational education. We are very, very, happy to be here, because our company is not only looking at the, profitability, but we are also concerned so much on the development of Indonesian people who wants to be a farmers, because being farmer is actually a good income, can make a good living, and also for the environment. So that's the triple bottom line. But for the education hype, I think first of all we have three main interests why we are actually helping this educational vocational school in Indonesia, because of 3 main reasons. First, as I mentioned earlier, there will be always a chance for them to work for us. We always look for somebody who actually have the hands-on on the practice. That's number one. Number two, we always need a partner. We always need somebody to produce the seeds with us, the 17,000 farmers who produce the seeds for us. And number three, and this is the bigger part, we always need a farmers. 7 million vegetable farmers in Indonesia at the moment. And then during this crisis, they are the one who is still making money. So it is a let's say, opportunity for people to get better income is by being a farmers. So that's the three main reasons for us to be so much involved in this green education.
Yeah, I imagine this is something that you cannot do alone as a window, because this is. So do you have a kind of cooperation with, for instance, education institutions or Ministry of Agriculture in your country to work on this? Do you see things changing?
Yeah, at the moment, of course, the triple helix, we are actually, with the Dutch, actually, we work a lot with the funding from the Netherlands, from NUFIC. Of course, with the school itself, we are already rooted in Subang, for example. We train the teachers of Subang school, SMK. Also Jember. In the past, we even set up the laboratory, seed laboratory in Jember SMK. So yeah, we work with them. So we train the students, we train the teachers. We put our demo plot also in that schools. So that's one of the ways from some ways that we work. Even in Palu, we also work with SMK in Palu, for example. Yeah.
Okay, this may be a nice bridge to a brief video, because as you very clearly, when we talk about education, and also with, let's say, future farmers or future professionals in agriculture, we're talking about the students. So they are the most important people. So the young people with their struggles and dreams. So let us listen to one of them, Ratna, which is a student from SMK Subang. Nanya, please could you share the video with us?
Untuk masa depan mau kerja sebagai apa?
Saya untuk kelanjutannya ingin kuliah terlebih dahulu untuk memperdalam ilmu pertanian. Kemudian saya ingin menjadi Menteri Pertanian, juga ingin berwirausaha dalam bidang pertanian. Itu aja sih.
Dan tahun lalu Mbak Ratna pergi ke Belanda, kunjungi Belanda. Belajar apa di sana?
Saya di sana belajar tentang teknologi yang sangat canggih yang saya belum tahu di Indonesia sudah ada atau belum. Saya juga di sana belajar tentang attitude atau tentang perilaku, disiplin dan tepat waktu orang Belanda. Ya.
Terima kasih.
Ya, sama-sama.
Thanks for sharing the video. Thanks, Ratna, for sharing your dreams. Angeli, I think in a lot of cooperation with Indonesia and Netherlands, we talk about stimulating entrepreneurship and agri-entrepreneurial skills. Do you have some experience with that for a concrete way how this can be improved?
Now, what indeed we discussed that in each program. How can you increase that entrepreneurial skills and spirit, and especially also on vocational level? We must also consider that it are quite young students already, and how can you enhance their skills? What we do currently, make at least an entrepreneurship part of their teaching program. How can you encourage it within their existing, for example, poultry, dairy, horticulture? What kind of projects can you give these students to to work already on the skills needed to be an entrepreneur, like thinking about market opportunities, thinking about developing a basic plan, how to start up your own organization, or how to promote or position a product in a better way. Working together also on these projects. We just finalized a program about business planning. So yeah, that is one of the issues that we bring in now in these teaching programs via these master trainers towards the SMK's in Lombok. And I think it's also good to show these young students the enormous variation and specialism in this sector and the development, so that they are aware about the potential, because I fully agree with what Glenn was saying. There is so much potential in this sector, and it's not only in seed production, and not only in primary sector, it's also in marketing and trade, and food safety, and packaging, and everything. So show also these young people the innovations of this sector, and that they understand how attractive it is.
Okay, thanks, Anjali. I think I'm also curious to hear some kind of experience from the audience. So if there's someone in the audience to have a very concrete story about how to motivate young people to start a career in agriculture, then please share with the chat, and then we'll try to give you the floor. Mr. Glenn, do you have something to add? Because do you have also a special program for stimulating the so-called agropreneurship?
Of course, we have since actually 3 years ago, we have what's so-called Young Farmers Program. So we actually collect, Young Farmers Program. So we collect all these young farmers, and then
how many?
Yeah, I think many in several areas. For example, in Lampung, Lampung is South Sumatra. I think the number there, I think, is around 50 or 60 young farmers.
Okay.
And they are, let's say, a very good entrepreneur, because they really into it, make a community, and then very active. But of course, they are very active also in social media. But what I can share to build them is not by kind of class or teaching, but is by showing the example of a successful young entrepreneur or young farmers. So we bring a success young farmer, and then let this person talk. Because if I'm the one who, talk or share or train them, they will not believe me. But if somebody from them, part of them, actually, young farmers, teaching them is really motivating. So entrepreneurship, I think, in this sector is by showing the examples. So that's why also for schools, I think SMKs, I think it's very important to bring a successful young farmers, send them to schools, and show them that it is actually there is a good future if you really focus in this kind of industry. Being a farmer is actually a very good future, because until today, until today, farmers in Indonesia are still considered as the bottom of the pyramid. So farmers is poor. So that's something that we have to change. Farmers is actually nowadays, farmers is rich. They are the one who makes money. Farmers means work. In the other part is a lot of unemployment. But being farmers, you have a job.
Okay, but is, let's say, are already the SMKs, what you're talking about, or other education institutes, are they already using, let's say, this kind of examples to bring them into the education, or not enough? Or not enough, according to you?
According to me, it's still not enough. I think this should be, strengthened. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that's a very concrete suggestion for improvement. So you yourself are, for instance, guest lecturing at SMKs in your region?
Yes, in the past, but now I have plenty of other, my colleagues from company. We are regularly invited at SMK. Yeah.
Okay. And is there something also that's, because to do that you don't need, let's say, Angeli or me, or you can do that within Indonesia. So is there a role for us, for the Dutch cooperation, to strengthen this very concrete cooperation in education?
Yeah, I think we know what to do and how to do it, but sometimes we kind of lack why we do it. And actually with the Dutch, with you and your expertise, you also help us to really set up the why, so people will be engaged more. And after that, what we miss also is kind of the knowledge management. Even in our company, we have a lot of knowledge, but the knowledge management, how to collect that knowledge and put that in special place, write it down, so people can easily copy that. I think that's something that we still miss. I think that's something is your expertise. Even last night, I heard that my daughter told me that, hey, Papa, there is an entrepreneur school, entrepreneurship master study in Groningen, he said. So, wow, I said, wow, even that you learn. I don't think we have that. So maybe because we know, by practice, but sometimes we might forget that there is a theory behind it.
Are there any, Nanya, are there any questions in the chats related to this topic?
Hi, thank you, Huip. Yes, we indeed have received a couple of questions, and one is from Peter Witkamp. Yeah, that's about we need young and ambitious people in this sector. And how are we going to do that? How are we going to target young people to start a career in agriculture?
Okay. Angeli, this is, of course, a big, important question from Peter.
Yeah.
Is this also something that you explicitly incorporate in the work you do with your partners? And if so, what do you do?
Now, to answer the question of Peter, I think we all know there is not one solution to do that. That requires all kind of promotion of this sector. Indeed, how many opportunities it gives.
Do you see this promotion happening?
I saw it in the Netherlands. I don't see it yet in Indonesia, but maybe I'm not aware about that. And in the past, in the Netherlands, the private sector itself, a group of companies, they really promoted, for example, in horticulture. In their area, they did a lot of promotional activities to attract young people to work in this sector, because indeed it has a lot of opportunities. What I also can give as an example, we have the Horti Heroes, that young people are encouraged from these schools to come up with an idea, to work on a project, to present it to the private sector stakeholders again, to a committee, and that a few are granted with funds to work out their ideas. So that's also a way how to encourage these young people. What I saw,
so sometimes also a bit of terminology. So we will call them heroes. Eh? So it's a branding issue then.
But it's not a branding. But okay, looking behind that term, that's a real activity to encourage young people to come up with their own creative ideas and get some funding and get some support to make their ideas real in practice, to get it running. You can think about organization of fundings for startups. Also, that is important, that young people get financial support when they have an idea. What I also saw in the Netherlands, and and maybe it's also existing in Indonesia. I know a school who has a business counter where companies can bring in their needs, maybe some research, maybe some project that needs to be done. And that business counter that starts from the second year of these schools, these students may work in that business counter for 12 hours a week. They really adopt the whole project. They do the intake, they make an offer for the companies, and when the company agreed with the offer, they really work that project. They're working on that project in the given planning of this. So that's also a way how these young people start up already with working on their independent on these kind of activities.
Okay.
Yeah, there are many.
Okay.
I think when we come all together, there are many possibilities to encourage young people to start as an entrepreneur. And
so you say it needs to be better coordinated so that we pool our energy more.
You must make a plan on that. You must do that in the coming back in a structured way and approach it from different angles and work that out and really do that. Yeah.
Okay. If I go back to Glenn, because I'm also reading the chat in between. Glenn, you started when we started this talk show. You were referring to the gap that you experience, and the gap between graduation and what you need as company. And this also has to do with skills. So I think there was a question from. Now I need to scroll.
Yes,
back.
indeed, Huub. There is a question both from Rara and from Jan about soft skills. Which
Yes.
soft skills should be given priority in vocational education? And also Rara is adding, also looking or taking into account the cultural differences, which is, I think, a very interesting question. But Glenn, can you first start answering this question?
Yeah, thank you, Jan, for your question. I think the skills, the soft, we talk about the soft skill, yeah. What is needed, I think, for the graduates from SMK, if I mention four, one is communication skill. That's something that is really needed, you know, being actually later, if they are being a farmer, how they can communicate it better, how to communicate about their products, you know, it's really essential skills. Second is, I think it's again, back to entrepreneurship. If they graduated from SMK, they have to really think that there is an opportunity, you know, it's a big opportunity. They learn already how to grow vegetable, for example. Now, not only grow vegetable, in SMK, I know that they also learn how to pack it nicely and then bring that to the, you know, to supermarket for higher price. So, but then do they have that entrepreneurship enough, you know, to do that, you know? Otherwise that knowledge, you know, becomes useless. And then creative thinking, I think, is something that is also needed. And last but not least is motivation. So this is something that from our company, if we go to SMK, we keep on telling the team, give them the motivation. Motivation is very, give them the motivate them, you know. Yeah, I think that's, if I repeat, communication skills, entrepreneurship, creative thinking, and motivation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And see you then, so very concrete. Do you see something changing in this respect? Because when I also look around in Indonesia, then I see a lot of entrepreneurship happening, a lot of dynamism and creativity in your country, and people, also very modern people, so is this? So I've got the feeling that there's also a lot of change, let's say, happening in your country, and this kind of skills are increasingly becoming more normal in also young people in your country. Am I correct? Do you see this as well? Or do you see perhaps that in the agriculture sector, this is really perhaps lagging behind?
Yeah, based on our last survey from Statistic Bureau, Indonesian Statistic Bureau, it's still, average age of our farmers is still above 50. That means that
Yes.
it's not enough. So it is improving. I can see that on Facebook, for example, a lot of young farmers now, but it's still not enough to cover the needs in the country. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But when we talk about let's say we talk about, let's say, farmers, but shouldn't then we also perhaps in Indonesia then change drastically the whole concept of farming to make it more interesting for, so it's not perhaps only skills, but it's more also the economic sector that needs improvement and change.
Yeah, I think we are in agriculture in vegetable. Vegetable is a bit higher compared to, for example, the food like rice or corn. Yeah, I think it start to be, especially with the this pandemic, you see, we see actually even the city farming now is growing by 1,000%. Yeah, more people now growing vegetable in the city, which is also good. They become farmers, city people. But also we see actually our sales this year compared to last year is quite high increase. That means it's actually becoming sexy activities for farmers in Indonesia because of the market is actually still moving. So yeah, I hope that it's a good sign, because if more and more young people move to this industry and they got the good income, I think that will stimulate more and more people to join in these activities.
So if I hear you, so there's on one hand an issue of indeed aging farmer population, but on the other hand, we see many activities happening of young people entering the sector and actually doing perhaps business a little bit differently in the field of e-commerce, for instance, or what you say, urban farming. So there is apparently a change happening.
Yeah, it is happening, yes.
Okay, but all right, Angeli.
Is it allowed to react on what Glenn was saying and on your question?
Exactly, please.
Yeah. You asked you asked the question: is it also needed that the sector is strengthened? And I feel that is what changing. I feel that is what I see in Indonesia. Really, it's crucial that we focus on these young people, because that are the future entrepreneurs and future employees. But when in the same way, also the sector itself is supported via research, via funding, via knowledge, maybe from the Netherlands, how to strengthen and develop and to innovate that sector itself, it makes it also more attractive for these young people. And that is what I feel a lot can be done. There is a lot that can be done in Indonesia, in other ways of production, innovative production, use of less water, energy, pesticides, making use of technology, making use of data. A lot can be improved. And by that innovation, you attract also probably more young people who see what is going on, what the opportunities are. And that's not a traditional sector. No, it's a dynamic. It should be a dynamic sector. So you should focus, I think the government should focus on both pathways, the education part, but also the private sector development part.
Yeah. Do I understand you correctly, Angeli? Because you say also, you do a little bit like this as a balance, but do you say that in fact the priority should be more in stimulating the sector and that bringing it as a kind of pull factor to also change then the education?
It should go hand in hand. What we saw in Europe and in the Netherlands, there were always, after the World War, programs. First it was food security, afterwards it was food quality, then it was food safety, and there were programs for the market, for the primary sector, for research and for education. And altogether it was a focus on a specific topic. And then you stimulate, based on a chosen topic, you stimulate altogether these angles of a private sector, of the sector itself. And maybe it's done in Indonesia that I don't see that much. I don't want to judge that, but don't forget that you have to lift up the whole, all angles of a sector. And that is, we call that the diamond model of the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, it's easy because we're close located to each other. So it's more easier for us. But all these angles, research, education, primary sector, the market itself, the supplying industry should have the same focus and should be supported by the government to bring in that innovation.
Okay. Nanya, maybe go to the chat, perhaps.
Yeah. Adding to what Anjali mentioned, indeed, public-private collaboration is crucial to lift the sector and to make improvements. And I see also some questions coming in on how to access financial sources and how can financial institutions get involved in supporting this development of improving vocational education and the lives of young farmers. I think it's nice to know that directly after this talk show, there will be an interview, and please join us in that interview with the Minister of Education and Culture of Indonesia, Pak Nadiem Makarim. He's also the founder of Gojek. That's a huge tech platform to do online delivery and even arrange your transport here in Indonesia. He's a young minister. I think it's an inspirational interview, and a talk show will follow after that about the topic public-private collaboration. So please join us there. I think there was also a question for Glenn, and that's a very specific one. Glenn. There is Mbak Ika. She lives in Klaten. For the Dutch participants, that's a small city near Yogyakarta. And she is asking you, how can we link our farmers to your company, to East West Seed? Because she feels farmers in her area need more capacity to upscale their activities and products.
Yes, thank you, Bu Ika. Actually, I replied already privately to her. We gave our company email account, and in front of me, actually, there is Pak Freddy. He will directly catch up and then engage with you. But we are looking forward for every collaborations. Yeah, so I also like to say here, our company is really looking forward for every collaborations that at the end can help the farmers or help the young Indonesians. So because that's our company values. Yeah.
Also in a cooperation, could we go back, because Glenn, with which institutions do you cooperate as a window? With which education institutions?
Actually,
you really have a kind of MOU agreement with some to really improve their education?
Yeah, we've almost with all high-end university like UGM, Gajah Mada in Yogyakarta. We even set up our gene bank there. We built the gene bank in Gajah Mada. We have MOU with IPB, with Universitas Pajajaran as well. We've also with local university in Karawang. Yeah, actually many MOUs, but yeah, that's really something that we like to work more, which is still not enough, I think. With ITB also, we work with ITB, and then we recruit a lot of graduates from ITB for our laboratory. Okay. So yeah.
I can imagine there's a difference between working together with universities than with working with SMK Polytechnic. Is that, let's say, my experience is that sometimes more difficult.
Which one more difficult, huh? SMK or universities?
I wanted to say the SMKs.
No, no, no. With SMK, you can directly talk to the headmaster easily. But with university, you are so difficult to get to the rector, maximum to the dean.
Okay.
So it's nicer with SMK. Yeah.
Okay. But that you also do concretely then, or that's more the individual guest lecturing level?
No. With SMK Subang, as I mentioned, we also have the MOU. We train the teachers and train the students on regular basis. They can send the students directly to us, but not on the COVID time.
Yeah.
In Jember, we set up the laboratory in the SMK Jember. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe look a bit to the future, because I think it's about sharing of also experience, but also a bit thinking out of the box. And so if we would imagine it's 2030, so 10 years from now, it's a question also to the audience, by the way, but but also first to Glenn and Anjali. So what would you, let's say, picture how the situation would be at that moment for, let's say, the agriculture sector in your country, but also, of course, how would you like to see the education being improved? And is there still then a cooperation between the Netherlands and Indonesia? Of course, I hope so.
May I
just
answer?
dream a bit, let's say, because we're talking about gaps and aging people, and whether or not entrepreneurial. So what would you inspire? So if you are now asked for your minister to, let's say, have the slogan for 2030, what should it be? Glenn.
So who will start, me or ladies first? Okay, good.
What you want,
Yeah, the minister actually somebody coming from the digitalized world. So he actually set up a very interesting startup, and it becomes one of the most successful startup in Indonesia, the Gojek, which I've been using it almost every day nowadays. So if you ask me, if you ask me what will be happening 10 years from now, for one thing for sure, that I will be retired happily. But same like our minister, 2030 is actually a digitalized world. So farmers are really equipped with digital, with mobiles. I hope 2030 is easier for them to sell the products, because all is connected now with the data and so on, what they plant, what they grow, when they harvest, how to sell it is all already arranged. So that's how I see 2030 is digitalization world. And this year is a COVID year. We learn a lot that we need to work on this digitalization. How is when the market was closed, then we have difficulties how to market our product. Suddenly we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we sell the festival on Instagram, Facebook. So all this actually helps. But then it's a good foundation for us to move forward. So if you ask me what will be inserted in education or vocational study in Indonesia is, of course, the learning about digitalization, because that is the key. They have to know when they have to produce, what to plant, when they harvest, when they sell, everything will be already on data. So I think that's it. That's my
okay.
Very
clear.
We have Ibu Santi in the meeting, our third speaker. Welcome, Ibu Santi. Ibu Santi is heading the Center of Agricultural Education in Indonesia, Pusdiktan, at the Ministry of Agriculture. Welcome, Ibu Santi.
Maybe before we go to Ibu Santi, just give Anjali the floor to respond to the question on how she pictures the situation
It was
in
such a difficult
2030.
question, but okay.
Of course.
No, it's
I think
yeah.
maybe Ibu Santi is the to recovery to the reparation to meeting again.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and indeed.
Ibu Santi is preparation for meeting. I'm sorry.
Yes, so she's not joining, yes, I suppose.
Yeah, I think she's not joining, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Actually.
Okay. I still hope that we is a collaboration, and that the collaboration is even stronger as we have nowadays between the Netherlands and Indonesia, and on education of these young people, but also the education or the knowledge development and the capacity in the sector itself. So yes, I hope, and indeed, Glenn, what you were saying, due to COVID, we know we are fully aware how easy we can communicate also now online. You see it now already in this seminar. So it's not needed to travel always, or to share that knowledge or questions or problems via sitting together. We can do that also in online settings. So I hope, when I dream about 2030, about how is education, that there may be more mingles between the Netherlands and schools in Indonesia or other parts of the world to communicate and to teach and to train. At one of the questions you asked somewhere about soft skills, I think we cannot teach our students nowadays for all the future problems. So I think that soft skill of problem solving and making from threats opportunities and to convert it in opportunity. So I think that's one of the elements in education are really crucial. We cannot prepare our students of what is going to happen over 10 years. So they must have the skills to think then at that moment how to overcome the developments, or how do I work with the innovations. They have to learn it by themselves. That I think that's a crucial part in education. Yeah, the digitalized world, food security, food safety, sustainability will be of more and more important due to that growing population and the impact that has to produce. So we really must focus on a sustainable way of production, of trading, with much less resources, and still produce enough food. So yeah, few elements.
Thanks, Anjali. Nanya, I think we still have a few more minutes left. So are there some comments or questions in the chat that you think it would be good to share?
Yeah, there was a question from Busari to Anjali about the blueprint for upscaling vocational education in Indonesia. So why is Lombok chosen as your target location?
Yeah, very good question. And I must admit, we followed the advice of the project steering committee and the ministry. They chose Lombok as first sector, of a first region. And together with a few people, we selected the schools, partly on advice, partly on what we observed. We selected the schools in Lombok.
Thank you, Anjali. I see that Bu Santi is here in the meeting. Welcome, Ibu Santi.
Please, yes, Ibu Santi.
Yeah,
good day to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you, Nanya, Pak Gub. Good morning, everyone.
because we are having to come to a closing of this session soon, because of the final session starting in, let's say, 10 minutes. Please apology that I'll just immediately jump into some questions to you, if I may call you Ibu Santi. What I know, under your responsibility, we have 7 agriculture polytechnics in Indonesia. That's correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Pak.
And my understanding is also that, now I have to look at, yeah, here it is. That, let's say, part of your program is, because we have been talking about entrepreneurship and challenge of motivating young Indonesians to work in agriculture. But as far as I know, you have a program which is called Stimulating, let's say, Young Entrepreneurship. Could you perhaps elaborate a little bit on this, where I'm looking at my own paper? So you have a program which Stimulating Young Entrepreneurship. Could you perhaps say a little bit about this and the success of this program?
Yes, thank you, Pak Hughes. We realize that regeneration is actually the main issue. Beside of other issue of agriculture, it is not only in Indonesia but also in the world. And
Correct.
one of our challenge is how we can push the youth, the young generation working in agriculture. It is not easy because the youth always always think that that agriculture is related to the poor, related to the something conventional and so on, and far away from modernization, from IT, for example. So that's why we are trying to give something stimulus from the youth, from the people to work in agriculture through how they can enhance their capacity through, for example, something like training, short training, and so on. And also we give modalities or money to them to open or to run their agribusiness, their business in agriculture, something like that. Hopefully, with this kind of modalities, capacity, skill, and also knowledge, and also any other modalities, something like a credit or money for running the business, it will give them confidence to run their business in the agriculture, and then they could accept the risk, because some of our problems with the youth, they are doubt to run their business because they are afraid of the risk. They are trying to be the risk averter, but with capacity, with the modalities, we are sure that this kind of program that we have, it will enhance, it will support the people, for the youth to run their business in agriculture. And so far, we already run since 2016, and then we already run all around Indonesia, around 5,000 youth already engaged in this kind of program. And we can claim that even the output, 70% success and the other still on the average, we can claim that this program is relatively success to generate our idea to push the people, the youth working in agriculture.
That sounds very nice. You say, Ibu Santi, that there's a 70%, which is very high success rate. So what is this rate? So that you mean that of these 5,000 young people, 70% did actually start their own small business? Or what is for you? So can you just give some examples, perhaps? So what is the 70% success rate? Are they, so 70% did start a business?
Yes, they are starting the business, and starting from 2016, they are relatively stable until now. they still open their business.
Okay, okay. And do you and this is a program which is offered to all the students of the 7 polytechnics, if I'm correct?
This is not only for our polytechnics, not only
Okay.
for our 7 polytechnics, but also for the universities that have agriculture department, and also for the high school on agriculture, particularly the vocational agriculture.
Okay, okay. Thanks for this information. We need to keep it a bit brief with you, Ibu Santi, because we have to close the session shortly. Nanya, is there something in the chat to be shared?
Sorry.
Yeah, we didn't have time to answer all the questions, but in the follow-up of winner, we will come back to you, and you can also contact us for further discussions.
Yeah. Then I think this is a good moment to wrap up the session so that people can get a cup of tea or coffee before entering the final session. I have to look. So I think the what I got from the session is the huge task and responsibility of all of us, being business, being educators, being also government now represented by Ibu Santi, being Dutch or Indonesians, to stimulate young people, to enable also young people to work in the agriculture sector, and which also implies that it doesn't only need a different skill set with, of course, digital abilities as well, but also that it requires perhaps some changes in the sector as well, and innovative solutions to make, let's say, working in the sector also attractive and also economically viable for young people. Having said so, I would like to thank Mr. Glenn in particular, and Anjali, and also Ibu Santi for your time and input in this dialogue. And I also would like to thank the audience for participating. Special thanks, of course, to the organizers of Winner, and in particular Nanya Burki of NESO Indonesia, who has spent a lot of time preparing this session. And if I'm correct, a report will become available on the Winner website, and recordings can be seen afterwards. Rest me, of course, to invite you to join the final session of Winner that starts within a few minutes with an interview of the Indonesian Minister of Education and Culture, Nadiem Makarim, on public-private cooperation, followed by a panel discussion. So thank you very much for this very inspiring, interesting, dynamic discussion, and looking forward meeting all of you in another time, perhaps somewhere Jakarta, Lombok, or wherever.